This is a very brief Visual Basic example. I have an interest in data that Google provides on n-grams. That's use of words that appear next to each other in texts. And Google's done a lot of work on digitizing texts and has produced a lot of files, which are really rather large, which summarize how often these groups of words occur together. So 1 grams are just the occurrences of single words, 2 grams are when two words appear next to each other, like each other, and so on. Now, that comes out to be a lot of data, and the format of the page actually doesn't make it all that easy to download all the ones you might be interested in. In my case, I particularly want to see all of the 2 grams and all of the 3 grams. Some of these files are multiple gigabytes in size, and downloading them manually would take a very long time because you'd have to right click on each one, save link as, etc. So I thought I'd automate that, and I've actually got 2 programs running as we speak. We can just have a quick look at how much network time I'm using up, bandwidth I'm using. So I'm using a fairly consistent 100% of my 100 megabit per second network. I've got 2 programs running. My first thought was to run a Ruby program to do it, which is this small amount of code here. You'll see there were some mistakes earlier, particularly finding that a file was too large. So this is a Ruby program which downloads 1 file at a time. Up here we've got that list of names. I could read that list of names from this page by downloading the page and extracting the information, but to be honest, for this sort of job, I'm not going to be running it very often. It was easier to copy and paste, so I highlighted the names, those subsections of the names, and have included them in the string that I use. So what have I got in my Visual Basic program to do the same thing? This defines the string, and that's, as I say, the copy and pasted text. I'd already downloaded the AA one to check that it worked. And I just thought I'd very quickly look at how you can download files using Visual Basic. Webclient is part of the system.net library and makes it very easy to set up a connection. It uses a URI, which we normally think of as a URL, but it's a URI which takes the address of the document that you want to download. Now, as I mentioned, these are the codes for each individual one, but this is the base name for each. So I've got the base name, concatenate the string with an ampersand, the code, and this is one of these for each loops that uses a variable name that's defined within the loop, and it's for each variable in the collection, and this collection here comes from the string. You'll notice, by the way, well, you won't notice because you can't see it at the moment. I'll just scroll across to the end of that string, which is obviously quite long. Here we go, all the way across. So I take the string and I split it on the spaces. That was just easier to do because when I copied and pasted it, it had the spaces in. Split it on the spaces, that turned it into an array for me. So I concatenate it in here, and I can concatenate it again here. It may be better really to define this part as a variable and then use that variable twice, but this is fine, and I'm saving it to a local drive. Then all I have to do is a webclient.download file from the URL to the file name in this loop, and it gets on with it for me. Now, I should have error trapping in here. If this goes wrong, I'm going to have to restart it, and I'm going to have to check what point it stopped at, so it's bad practice. But it's worth having a look at just the very basics there that we can use for downloading lots of files as an indication of how long this is going to be taking, even automated. Some of the files are, for instance, nearly 7 gigabytes. And if I scroll down, the ones which I've got at the bottom here, there's a number of them that are 1 or 2 gigabytes in size. So it's a big job. It'll sit there working away even when I go home, unless, as I say, it runs into an error, and then I'll have to take myself out and have myself shot for not putting in the error trapping. But it's a developmental program. It's not designed for other people to run, and that'll be my fault. Have a play with Webclient, see what else it can do. There is, for instance, download file async, which means it doesn't wait to finish, and you can get on with doing some other work. You could use that for parallelization, making it download more than one file at a time. But in this case, because I've got it running in 2 languages anyway, it's using up 100% of the bandwidth that I've got available, so there'd be not too much point in that. And I'd have to have separate web clients, because download file async can only download one file at a time itself, so I'd have to have lots of web clients for each of the different files I was downloading. As I say, it's quite fun to have a quick play with. I wouldn't try and grab gigabyte files when you're playing with it, but it's worth exploring some of your favourite websites and see whether you can download some stuff this way. Okay.